Hello, welcome back. We were on this slide when the previous video stopped. So we were talking about genetic abnormalities. We did talk about PKU. I mentioned that there were three things that you needed to remember about that. As a quick recap, you need to remember first that genetic abnormalities are diseases and disorders caused by a single pair of genes. You then need to know about PKU, that it is an enzyme disorder. It is detectable, it causes digestive issues that impact the nervous system, and you need to know that it is treatable with diet as soon as possible. And that's where we stopped. So again, you needed to know those three things. That takes us to Huntington's disease. This, unfortunately, is fatal, and it is a dominant trait disease. Sickle cell anemia is a recessive gene, and it impacts many with painful, and it can be potentially fatal. Tay-Sachs disease, you will need to know about this. You'll see it again. I'll tell you specifically in a second what you need to know, but this Tay-Sachs disease impacts the central nervous system, and what happens is the central nervous system degenerates or breaks down, and it results in death by 3 to 4 years of age, and that's what you need to know. The Tay-Sachs disease results in death between 3 and 4 years of age. It's also most common in Jewish families. Cystic fibrosis is most common of all of these. There are 30,000 Americans that have cystic fibrosis. 10 million carriers, and many die of respiratory infections in their 20s. So it has decreased life expectancy as well. So lots of things from this slide that you needed to write in and that you would see again. Sex-linked genetic abnormalities, and these are again carried on the X chromosome. So remember, the X chromosome is female. So hemophilia, the Duchenne muscular dystrophy, diabetes, color blindness, and some types of night blindness. And you could read more about all of these things on page 57 in your textbook. In determining the probability of genetic or chromosomal abnormalities, there's genetic counseling. And the genetic counseling is going to address the probability of genetic abnormalities. And it also gives information about the couple's genetic heritage. Now these could be good, but they have become a bit controversial. And we're going to be looking at more about this in the next slide. Some of the prenatal testing that can take place is things like amniocentesis, CVS, ultrasound, and blood test. Now, we do have a video that you'll watch at the end of this video that's on amniocentesis. And the CVS, the chorionic villus sampling, is something that is done earlier than an amniocentesis. So all of these you could read more of. There's amniocentesis. We're going to look at a picture in a minute, but there's a figure 2.6 on page 58 in your book. CVS, not the drugstore, is also discussed on page 58 in your book. Ultrasound, page 59, and blood test, page 60. Before we do that, there is a section review as well that I'm going to want you to look at, but let's first go to the next slide. We'll do that first. So let's look more detailed at the amniocentesis. This is usually performed on a mother about 14 to 16 weeks after conception, and it can detect more than 100 chromosomal and genetic abnormalities in the fetus. Now, it also tells beyond a shadow of a doubt the sex of the baby. Sometimes ultrasound pictures surprise us. Birth comes around and we just didn't look at things in a good angle, and sometimes you can still get a surprise, but the amniocentesis is pretty definitive. There is some risk of miscarriage when what they do, and you'll see in a minute, is they insert a needle into the placenta. So you wouldn't want to do this for no reason. So you don't do it unless there's a reason that we would have some risk involved to the child or the mother that would make us want to find this information out in this way. There is improved ultrasounds and blood tests which reduces the need to use amniocentesis. So here is a visual. You can see this object right here by my mouse. That's a needle, in case you're wondering what that is. It's going through the abdomen wall and through to the sac, the amniotic sac right in here, and they're getting some of the fluid from the amniotic sac. And you can see here that they do cell cultures and try to learn more. Now, there is a video, before I move off of this, there is a video showing how the amniocentesis works. It's only about a 3-minute video. As soon as you're done watching this video, you should watch the video on amniocentesis. So next we want to continue by looking at that chorionic villus sampling CVS, and this can diagnose abnormalities even earlier than the amniocentesis. However, it has equal or slightly higher risk of miscarriage compared to amniocentesis. So again, we don't do this without a good reason. And we have a video on this as well, so after you watch the amniocentesis video, you should watch this chorionic villus sampling CVS video, and it's only 4 minutes long, so again, another super short one. Ultrasound is the next item, and you do need to remember this. You will see it again. Ultrasound is where we bounce sound waves off the fetus. We bounce sound waves off the fetus. That's what ultrasound is. Sonogram is the picture of the fetus. So the ultrasound is the process. The sonogram is the picture. A lot of times people get confused on what's the difference between ultrasound and sonogram. Ultrasound is what you do. Sonogram is the little picture that you get from doing an ultrasound. It's used to track the fetus growth and to determine age, sex, and structural abnormalities. And we do have a video, again a very short one, 3 minutes, of an ultrasound as well. So we're so close to finishing this section. I am going to finish this section and then ask that you watch those 3 videos. So again, the only thing here that you'll need to remember that you'll see again is ultrasound, bouncing sound waves off the fetus. There are blood tests that can be done as part of genetic counseling and prenatal testing, and they reveal the presence of recessive genes. We talk about the AFP. This is all found more about this on page 60. Here is a picture of, it says sonogram, so that's pointing to the picture there. And the whole process there is using ultrasound. So now there is a section review on page 60 that I'd like for you to look at and see if you're following along and being able to answer things. And there are 3 short videos that I'd like for you to watch after this video concludes. Amniocentesis, the CVS, and then also the ultrasound video. So after that, you will be all caught up and we will pick up in class face-to-face with 2.3 Heredity and the Environment. Thank you.